Hey everyone! Big news you need to hear, and honestly, you might want to grab a pen for this one. By May 2025, and yeah, that's just weeks away, 10 everyday grocery items might disappear from store shelves entirely. For real. This isn't some far-off problem, it's already happening. Global supply chains are falling apart, extreme weather is wrecking crops left and right, and rising conflicts are shutting down shipping routes. It's a mess, and we're all feeling it. Prices for these items? They've already jumped by as much as 40% just in the last couple of months. But here's the good news. While other people are scrambling and panicking at the grocery store, you're going to be ahead of the game. I'm breaking down exactly what these 10 items are, why they're vanishing, and how you can prepare smartly without resorting to hoarding. Trust me, you'll want to stay until the end, because the last item on this list is probably sitting in your kitchen right now, and it'll blow your mind. Alright, so buckle up and let's get into it before it's too late. 1. Alright, kicking off this list with something that might honestly crush your soul a little. Number 1 is cocoa and chocolate products. Yeah, I'm talking about everything from your favorite chocolate bars to cocoa powder for baking, and even those chocolate chips you toss into cookies. Here's the deal, and it's not pretty. About 70% of the world's cocoa comes from just 4 countries in West Africa, with Ghana and Ivory Coast leading the way. But right now, they're in trouble. These regions are getting slammed by the worst drought they've seen in 30 years. Can you imagine? Cocoa trees that used to thrive are now dying in droves because they're not getting the water they need. I mean, some farmers are saying they've already lost up to 40% of their crops this year alone. And it's not just the drought making it worse. Labor shortages in these areas are at an all-time high. Young people are leaving farming communities to find work in the cities because, honestly, who can survive on less than $1 a day? That's how little cocoa farming pays in many parts of the region. It's not sustainable, and it's one of the reasons why production is taking such a huge hit. Now, here's the part that really stings. Big chocolate companies? They've known for years that this crisis was coming. It's not like this drought or these worker shortages popped up overnight. But instead of coming up with real solutions or supporting farmers properly, they've mostly just looked the other way. And now, we're all about to feel the effects in a big way. By May 2025, you can expect a major spike in chocolate prices. We're not talking a small jump either. Experts say prices might increase by at least 60%. That $3 chocolate bar you grab occasionally? It could soon cost you $5, maybe even more. But it's not just about price hikes. Some cocoa-based products might start vanishing from shelves altogether. Dark chocolate, which has a higher cocoa content, is expected to be the first to go. Even cocoa powder and baking chocolate chips could become rare finds. Imagine trying to whip up your favorite brownies, but the main ingredient is nowhere to be found. Yikes. If you're a chocolate lover or planning to do some holiday baking over the next year, now's the time to stock up. And here's a little life hack for you. Dark chocolate actually keeps well for over a year if you store it properly. Think about grabbing a few extra bars or bags of the good stuff now, so you're not caught in the chaos when everyone else finally realizes what's happening. Chocolate might actually go back to being a luxury item, just like it was centuries ago. Wild, right? Bottom line, don't wait on this one. Treat yourself, stock up, and maybe even stash a little extra to share or not share down the road. Number 2, rice. Alright, number 2 on our list is rice. That simple bowl of rice you have with dinner. It's in serious trouble, and I don't just mean rising prices. By May 2025, rice could actually become a rare luxury item for your table. We're talking about a crisis hitting right at the heart of the world's favorite grain. Rice isn't just an ordinary carb. For half the world's population, it's their primary food source. Millions depend on it daily. But production is collapsing across Asia, and the numbers are chilling. Thailand, India, and Vietnam are the top 3 rice exporters in the world, accounting for over 60% of the supply. Without these countries producing, we're in trouble. And right now, they're facing catastrophic harvest failures. Like, this isn't a small decline, it's a full-scale agricultural nightmare. Just a little over a year ago, experts were predicting surplus harvest from these regions. Fast forward to now, and agricultural ministers in Southeast Asia are scrambling. They're literally holding emergency meetings every week to figure out how to solve this. Thailand got hit first with extreme flooding. I'm not talking about a heavy rain here. Entire provinces were underwater for weeks last season. It was heartbreaking. Pictures of rice paddies turned into lakes, farms lost to the floods, families left with nothing. 30% of Thailand's rice fields were wiped out just like that. A huge chunk of the world's rice supply gone. And then there's India. Instead of exporting rice like they've always done, India decided to extend their rice export ban for another year. 40 million tons of rice that used to hit the global market? Poof. Gone overnight. They're holding on to whatever they've got for their own people, and you can't really blame them. Vietnam isn't able to make up the difference either. Their Mekong Delta, which is basically the rice bowl of the country, is being destroyed by saltwater intrusion. Fields that were growing rice for centuries are now barren. Farmers are totally baffled. What makes this crisis worse is demand for rice is exploding. With wheat prices skyrocketing, you've got millions of people switching over to rice as their go-to grain. Food banks in the US are reporting an 85% increase in rice requests compared to last year. Everyone wants rice, but there's not enough to go around. Even China is stockpiling. They've locked in their largest rice order in history, buying up 2.5 million tons. When China is panic buying, you know it's bad. Here's the kicker though. American-grown rice isn't going to save us. Droughts in California have slashed production, and farmers in Louisiana and Texas are opting to plant more profitable crops like soybeans. I even spoke to a third-generation rice farmer in Arkansas who said nearly half of his neighbors have quit growing rice altogether. What can you do? Start looking into alternative grains now. Quinoa, barley, farro, bulgur wheat. These are all great substitutes. They're versatile and will stay affordable longer while everyone else fights for what rice is left. If you're sticking to rice, buy a sealed container and keep it stored properly. Rice can last 2, even 3 years in the right conditions. I keep mine in glass jars with oxygen absorbers, and it holds up great. Act now, because rice prices have already jumped 37% since January. Don't wait until shelves are empty. Number 3. Fish. Alright, moving on to number 3, fish. And I don't just mean one type of fish. We're talking about several types of the seafood you probably grab regularly. Wild salmon, tuna, cod. This isn't a rumor. They're disappearing fast. Your favorite seafood dishes could soon become just a memory. Here's the reality. Salmon stocks are in free fall. Fishing reports show catches have dropped by a shocking 35% just since the start of this year. Why? Because ocean temperatures are changing dramatically. Key areas where salmon normally spawn and grow have seen temperature increases of over 2 degrees. That might not sound like a lot, but for fish, it's devastating. Salmon are migrating to new, unfamiliar waters, and Alaskan fisheries, which used to supply North America with plenty of fresh salmon, are reporting the worst season they've had in 30 years. Fishermen who've worked there for generations are selling their boats because they can't make ends meet anymore. And it's not just salmon. Pacific tuna stocks have collapsed. Yellowfin tuna, one of the most popular types, is down a staggering 60% compared to just last year. That's more than half. Fishing fleets are coming back with empty nets, and if they do catch anything, it's barely enough to cover costs. Even Japan, one of the leading seafood producers, is struggling. Contracts are being canceled because suppliers just don't have the product. If you're thinking, well, what about farm-raised fish? Bad news there too. Farm-raised fish relies heavily on wild fish for feed. It's a vicious cycle and we can't escape it. And those frozen cod fillets you buy for quick dinners? They're already vanishing in some areas. Grocery stores are limiting customers to only 2 packages in certain regions because they can't keep up with their regular shipments. Here's the problem as a whole. Overfishing and rising temperatures are crushing fish populations. Marine biologists have been warning about this for years, but no one expected such a drastic collapse to happen this quickly. Fish are losing breeding grounds, food sources, and there's microplastics in commercial samples now. They're under constant stress, and they can't survive at all. If you're a seafood lover, stock up now. Grab canned tuna, frozen salmon, and cod products while you still can. And here's something to think about. Sustainable alternatives are out there. Ever heard of lionfish or Asian carp? These invasive species are actually excellent to eat. Harvesting them helps ecosystems and they taste great too. It might be time to switch things up. Number 4, avocados. Avocados. They went from being everyone's favorite Instagram-worthy toast topper to being one of the first casualties of what's happening with our food supply. If you've noticed avocados getting more expensive lately, you're not imagining it. Things are about to get way worse. California, which grows the majority of US avocados, is facing some seriously brutal droughts. Water allocation to farmers has been slashed, and they're having to make tough decisions just to stay afloat. This isn't just a bad year, it's a full-blown structural problem. Yields have dropped by 30% compared to last year. Some farms have even stopped producing altogether because the water costs don't make sense anymore. And if you're thinking we can just rely on imports from Mexico, sorry, that's not a solution either. The delays at the US-Mexico border are getting worse thanks to stricter inspections and rising safety concerns in growing regions. Cartel violence is causing disruptions in the supply chain, and labor shortages mean shipments are moving slower than ever. The numbers are bleak. Analysts are warning that avocado prices could jump between 40% and 60% by next year. That's not a gradual increase, that's full-on sticker shock. For anyone following keto, plant-based, or just trying to eat healthy fats, this is going to hit hard. What's your move? Stock up while you can. Ripe avocados can be diced, vacuum-sealed, and frozen. And trust me, they hold up surprisingly well for guacamole, smoothies, or spreads. Don't wait until you're staring at those empty produce bins at the grocery store. Number 5. Coffee. All right, let's talk about coffee. Yep, that critical part of your morning routine that turns you into an actual human being before 9 a.m. Here's the bad news, folks. Your beloved cup of coffee is about to get a whole lot more expensive and maybe even harder to find. And no, I'm not exaggerating. Coffee is heading toward luxury status faster than you might think. The problem? Global coffee production is under intense pressure, and the leading suppliers are in serious trouble. Take Brazil, for example. It's the world's top coffee producer, responsible for about a third of the coffee you sip every day. But Brazil is dealing with an unrelenting combo of droughts, crushing heat waves, and unpredictable rainfall. And I'm not talking about minor inconveniences here. These weather patterns are so extreme that they're wiping out crops. Some farmers are reporting losses of up to 40% compared to just a couple of years ago. If that wasn't bad enough, Vietnam, which leads the market in Robusta beans, the ones used in instant coffee and espresso blends, is in its own crisis. Water reserves are drying up, temperatures are skyrocketing, and farmers are struggling to keep up. And it doesn't stop there. Countries like Colombia and Ethiopia, which produce some of the richest coffee beans in the world, are also being hammered. Rising fertilizer costs, political instability, and labor shortages have created a perfect storm that's choking the global coffee supply chain. And here's the kicker. While supply is nosediving, demand is still climbing like crazy. With more people working from home, coffee has become a daily lifeline for millions. Put it all together, and what do you get? Skyrocketing prices. Analysts are predicting a 30% price hike by summer 2025. Premium beans? Already seeing double their usual cost in some US cities. And shipping problems just add fuel to the fire. Port delays, rising fuel costs, and container shortages mean your favorite roast might be stuck at sea, instead of sitting on a store shelf ready for you to grab. What can you do? First off, don't wait. Stock up now. Freeze-dried coffee, vacuum-sealed whole beans, or ground coffee can stay fresh for months if stored properly. And here's a little tip. If you've got the freezer space, frozen coffee beans can last a long time while still keeping their flavor intact. You might also want to explore local roasters or smaller regional brands that bypass global supply chains. They could have a better handle on this brewing crisis. Also, maybe start cutting back just a bit. Get used to drinking smaller portions or skipping that third cup to help stretch out your current supply. Trust me, you don't want to wait until May to be scrambling for your caffeine fix. Imagine staring at empty shelves or paying $20 for what used to cost you $8. Act now before your mornings get a whole lot harder. Number 6. Olive oil. Next up, one of the unsung heroes of your pantry, olive oil. You use it for cooking, dressing salads, and probably without even realizing how essential it is to your daily meals. But here's the thing. Olive oil is teetering on the edge of becoming a luxury item you might not afford by next year. Why? Well, the Mediterranean, which is the heart and soul of olive oil production, is in trouble. Countries like Spain and Italy, the global powerhouses of olive oil, have been hit with some of the worst drought conditions in recorded history. To put it in perspective, Spain alone produces nearly half of the world's olive oil supply. But last year their harvest was down over 50%, and 2025 doesn't look any better. With dry soil, stressed trees, and shrinking yields, the situation is bleak. It's not just a problem for Europe, though. This shortage is already creating a ripple effect across the globe. Wholesalers are struggling to secure inventory, supermarkets are reducing how much they stock, and some major brands are even tweaking their recipes to mix in lower-grade oils. That extra virgin olive oil you love? It's either going to disappear or double in price. And in some places, it already has. What does that mean for you? If you cook a lot or enjoy the health benefits of olive oil, stock up while you still can. Dark glass bottles or metal tins are your best bet because they protect the oil from light and heat, keeping it fresh for longer. Properly stored olive oil can last up to 2 years without spoiling. Keep it in a cool, dark pantry, and you'll be good to go. And don't panic if it becomes too expensive or scarce. There are solid alternatives out there. Avocado oil, for example, is fantastic for cooking or frying at high temperatures. Coconut oil works well for baking or sautéing. Even sunflower oil, while less nutrient-rich, is still affordable and versatile. Here's the reality. Once people catch on to this olive oil shortage, expect chaos. Prices will skyrocket even more, and shelves could clear out as people stockpile. Don't wait until you see limit one per customer signs at the grocery store. Start preparing now so you're ahead of the curve. Number 7. Spices. Alright, for number 7, we're talking about something a little different but just as important. Spices. Yeah, that cabinet full of colorful jars you probably haven't thought much about. Here's the deal. Spices are one of the most vulnerable items in your kitchen, and the reasons are stacking up fast. A shocking 70% of the world's spice trade relies on just a handful of countries like India, Vietnam, Indonesia, and China. When these regions experience weather disasters, political instability, or shipping delays, the ripple effects are felt worldwide. And right now, they're all in trouble. India, for instance, saw a massive drop in turmeric production last year due to unpredictable rains and poor soil recovery. Vietnam, a major pepper exporter, is dealing with shipping delays that have slowed down exports to a crawl. Even everyday spices like cumin and coriander are becoming harder to source because of rising fuel costs and extreme weather. The supply is shrinking, but global demand isn't slowing down, so prices are climbing fast. Here's where it gets worse. Spices are considered low-priority freight items, meaning when shipping gets backed up, like it is now, containers of spices are the first to be left behind. Inflation, trade tariffs, and energy costs are squeezing spice farmers too, making it harder for them to keep up with demand. It's a recipe for disaster. What can you do? Start by stocking up on the essentials now. Spices like black pepper, turmeric, cumin, cinnamon, and cloves are some of the most at risk, and they're also the most useful for flavoring meals and even in some cases for health benefits. Turmeric and cloves, for example, have anti-inflammatory properties that are valuable for long-term wellness. And here's the thing. Losing access to spices might not seem life-threatening, but think about it. Spices bring variety, flavor, and vibes to your meals. If the food you're prepping lacks flavor, it's going to wear you down mentally over time. Trust me, in a situation where you're relying on basic pantry staples, having a jar of cinnamon or black pepper can be a serious morale booster. Spices might not save your life, but they'll preserve your sanity. And in times like these, that's just as important. Don't sleep on this one. Number 8. Citrus fruits. Alright, let's talk about something that's going to hit anyone who loves a good glass of orange juice in the morning or enjoys a zesty squeeze of lemon in their water. Citrus fruits are in serious trouble. By May 2025, you might be staring at crazy prices for oranges, lemons, limes, and grapefruits, or maybe staring at empty shelves altogether. And here's why. Citrus greening disease, also known as Huanglongbing or HLB, is wreaking havoc across the globe. This bacterial infection, spread by tiny bugs called Asian citrus psyllids, is basically a death sentence for citrus trees. Once a tree is infected, it starts producing weird, bitter fruit, and then it dies. Florida has been ground zero for this catastrophe. Since 2005, over 70% of the state's orange groves have been wiped out. Think about that for a second. We're talking about a state that used to supply the lion's share of citrus in the US, now left with just a fraction of what it once produced. And it's not just about Florida. This disease isn't picky. It's going after orange trees, lemon trees, lime trees, you name it. And the scary part? There's no cure. Scientists have been throwing billions of dollars into research, but no solution has worked so far. Farmers are seeing their livelihoods disappear, with some losing 90% of their trees in just a few years. It doesn't stop there. Climate issues are making things worse. A brutal frost damaged 30% of California's lemon crop last winter. Meanwhile, record heat waves have hammered Mediterranean citrus production in Spain and Italy, leaving these powerhouse regions struggling to meet demand. And Brazil, typically the #1 producer of orange juice in the world, is dealing with one of the worst droughts it's seen in decades. The global citrus industry is literally crumbling as we speak. Now, what does this mean for you? It's going to hit your wallet hard. Remember that lime shortage in 2014 when prices quadrupled? This is shaping up to be even worse. By February, oranges are going to start disappearing. By March, say goodbye to affordable lemons and limes. And by May, be ready to pay ridiculous prices for whatever citrus is still left on the shelves. What can you do about it? Here's the good news. There are a few steps you can take. First, stock up now. You can freeze lemon juice and zest in ice trays. Just 1 cube equals a tablespoon, which is perfect for recipes. Second, look for vitamin C supplements to replace what you'd usually get from citrus. And if you're feeling ambitious, try growing an indoor citrus tree, like a Meyer lemon. It takes some care, but they can thrive indoors and give you fruit even in tough times. This isn't just about missing out on your daily orange juice. It's about an industry in crisis, farmers losing everything, and a global market struggling to keep up. Plan ahead, because this citrus crisis isn't going away anytime soon. Number 9. Wheat products. Now, we've got to talk about wheat, and trust me, this one will shake up the way you shop for groceries. Everything from the bread you toast at breakfast to your favorite pasta dinner is about to get a whole lot harder to find. Wheat products are experiencing a full-on crisis, and it's coming at us from all directions. Here's the first big issue. Ukraine and Russia, which together produce nearly 30% of the world's wheat exports, are still locked in an ongoing conflict. Sanctions and trade restrictions have cut exports by 15%, leaving a massive gap in the global wheat supply. But it's not just about international tensions. Climate disasters are adding fuel to the fire. Take Kansas, for example. This state is literally the breadbasket of America, but wheat production there is down by 47% compared to last year. Farmers are looking out at fields that should be golden and ripe, and instead seeing dry, brittle crops. Canada isn't faring much better. After those devastating wildfires last summer, massive swaths of farmland have been rendered unusable. Soil conditions have changed so drastically that growing wheat is becoming increasingly difficult without costly interventions. It's a domino effect. Lower production leads to higher prices, which leads to panic buying. Flour prices have already jumped more than 20% since January. Bread? It's now double the cost in some areas. And then there's shrinkflation. Have you noticed your boxes of pasta are getting smaller but cost the same? That 16-ounce box of spaghetti? It's quietly been reduced to 12 ounces in many stores. Manufacturers are trying to hide the shortage by giving you less for your money. And don't just take my word for it. Local bakeries and restaurants are being hit hard, too. Smaller shops are struggling to keep up with rising costs, with some seeing no choice but to close their doors. I spoke to one bakery owner who said she's had to raise prices by 30%, but her customers can't keep up, and the bills just keep piling up. Here's what you can do to prepare. Start by grabbing a few extra bags of flour now. Properly sealed, it can last up to a year. Consider buying whole wheat berries and investing in a small grain mill. Wheat berries can be stored for years and ground into fresh flour as needed. Explore alternatives like cassava flour, chickpea pasta, or almond-based products. They taste different, sure, but you'll adapt. This wheat shortage isn't temporary. Climate models show America's wheat belt shifting northward over the next decade, but agriculture doesn't change overnight. Prepare now because by May, wheat-based products could be a thing of the past at your local store. Number 10. Dairy. Last but certainly not least, dairy. Got milk? You might not pretty soon. Dairy products are being hit by what can only be described as a perfect storm. From skyrocketing costs to climate troubles, this is one crisis that's spreading fast. First, dairy farmers are barely hanging on. Feed costs have doubled, and energy bills to power farms have jumped by 35%. Droughts are devastating grazing lands in key dairy regions like California and Wisconsin, forcing many farmers to shut down altogether. And here's something most people don't know. Cows can only produce milk efficiently within a very specific temperature range. Extreme heat waves have caused milk output per cow to drop by 17%. Farmers are now spending thousands on cooling systems just to keep their herds productive. And it's not just about farming. The supply chain is crumbling too. Transportation costs for refrigerated goods have soared by 42% because of rising fuel prices. On top of that, processing plants are running at low capacity because of worker shortages and delays in getting replacement equipment. When a machine breaks down, it can take months to get the parts needed to fix it. What's disappearing first? Heavy cream is already becoming scarce in certain areas. Specialty cheeses like Gruyere and Parmesan may be gone altogether by spring. Even organic milk is in free fall. Production has dropped by 31%, with no signs of recovering anytime soon. Yogurts, cottage cheese, butter, all of it is following the same troubling trend. What can you do? Consider plant-based alternatives like oat or almond milk. Just know that these are becoming more popular too, so they're next on the scarcity list once people start making the switch. Stock up on powdered milk if you can find it. It stores for years and works great for cooking. And here's a tip for butter lovers. Buy it in bulk when it's on sale. Portion it into small containers and freeze it. Butter can last for months in the freezer, so you'll have enough for the long haul. The dairy aisle you're used to is going to look very different by summer. Prices are going to keep climbing, selection will shrink, and those out-of-stock signs will become all too familiar. Start planning now so you're not caught off guard. Whether it's your morning coffee or your favorite baked goods, this one's going to impact your daily life in a big way.